Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth podcast. I'm Anish Gupta.
I'm Griffin.
So, we got Griffin here today to basically talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. And as you all know, not the biggest Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and I've already made that clear with them. Griffin, you want to give us a little bit of info about yourself, how you became a Steelers fan, maybe about your pages, because you are a writer, so feel free to say anything about yourself.
Well, like I said, my name's Griffin. I'm 17. I live in Alaska, and I just was born a Steelers fan. No ties to Pittsburgh, just dad's a Steeler fan, been a Steeler fan, Obviously, we've had good years, Super Bowl, but we've had some heartbreaks. Super Bowl 45, that was hard, but yeah, I'm a writer, so I just write about football mainly. Once in a while I'll write about baseball, but it's football mainly. Just lists, mainly top 10 lists, and write an article right now about can Marcus Mariota can he leap over Derek Carr during?
Wow, and you know what? That's
just
pretty
like
ironic.
what he did.
We're actually delivering an episode on that. I mean, by the time this video comes out, obviously we had an episode on it, so that's pretty interesting there. I mean, you want to give us your quick thoughts? You think it could happen?
I do. I honestly do, because obviously it happened to him last year with Ryan Tannehill, and you saw where that went. And I think the Raiders haven't had a mobile type quarterback since Terrell Pryor back in 2011 to 2013, and Mariota just delivers that. So they're gonna have to spy him. Teams will have to put a QB spy, or maybe do a single high safety, extra linebacker in the box, or or just take away one of a linebacker or D lineman and put an extra safety or corner. I'd imagine Derwin James would be that, because he's probably the most versatile DB on that secondary.
Yeah, that's I think a good point.
I used the Chargers as
an example for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me it was like Derek Carr. I think I just don't give him the title of franchise quarterback. And I think over time Marcus Mariota might be a little bit more flashy. We'll see, but I don't think either of them are the answer. But obviously this is a Steelers-centric episode, so let's get focused on that. So, I mean, we know how last season went, right? I think, they went 8-5 and then they kind of fell down to 8-8. But I think, I got to tip my hat off to Mike Tomlin, right? You lose Ben Roethlisberger week 2 to Seattle. And there's just been a quarterback frenzy with, Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. Obviously, I don't like Mason Rudolph. But, I mean, you kind of want to maybe explain, what did you think of that season? Do you think it was just bad quarterback play? Because I think, in my opinion, this defense really stepped up. And I think going into next year is definitely a top 3 unit. Offensive line is great. But, you want to maybe give your thoughts on the offense and how the Steelers were last year?
The game was up here because, of course, they were playing Seattle, so Seattle always airs in Alaska. So watching that, and me and my dad both noticed Ben was wincing before his injury happened, and we're like, oh, that doesn't look good. So it happened, and we were like, oh crap, there goes the season, obviously, because Ben's what makes us a playoff contender every single year. And Mason steps in, and I think he threw an interception on his first drive. He was trying to hit Dante Moncrief, who couldn't catch anything all last year, and eventually cut at him. But and then he had that I think it was like a 50-yard flea flicker to Juju, and I was like, okay. But I think what really jarred Mason Rudolph was against the Ravens, when he got knocked out, when Earl Thomas came in and just pancaked him, and they had to remove his face mask. That's what really set him off, because when he came back against the Dolphins Monday night, he just was rattled. You could see he was doing it what Ben did, because after Ben's motorcycle accident, he started holding onto the ball more, and that's what he did. And then Rudolph ended up throwing a pick on his first pass attempt that game. And Duck definitely stepped up during the preseason. I know I was like, dang, Duck Hodges, hopefully we sign him. We end up trading Josh Dobbs beginning of the season at the Jaguars. And then after that, I'm like, me and my dad are like, yo, we're going to sign Duck Hodges back. And there it is.
I think the Chargers one was pretty impressive. I got to give them the credit there Monday night. That was, 100%. Because they were 1-4 right at the time. And they steamrolled.
That was his first start.
Exactly. So
right before the bye.
That's true. And I think, I kind of flash back, because I think the teams took 2 different directions Thursday night with the Browns and the Steelers. I think that, right? It was very convincing for, a team we started off 2-6. And I thought that win was pretty convincing because let's be real, the Browns don't beat the Steelers often. I mean, this is
They didn't I don't think they beat them since like 2010 or something. So I remember one game
they
you
won,
guys
I
beat
think, at
us.
home, but on the road they have not won. I mean, they
No.
tied in 2018, but
Yeah.
I thought that was very convincing for a team that was 2-6, had an easier second half of the schedule, and I thought, okay, this is where you get some momentum. I think they were 5-6 or 4-6 when they won, and then obviously the final 8 seconds, Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, like it's just he's going to be known for that. But I mean, off the field, he's been a great player. He's given back to the communities, but that is going to be the one thing that people know him for. And I think that really hurt the Browns going into the rest of the season. I mean, obviously they beat Miami, but then towards the end, I think they slacked, and that's why they lost their final 3. But I think the Steelers used that as motivation for when they played next time, and I think they beat it pretty handedly. I know it was only a 7-point game, but it looked a lot worse as a Browns fan when we lost at Pittsburgh. But to kind of, sum up their season, right? 8-8 with terrible quarterback play. I think Juju Smith-Schuster, obviously, maybe to kind of touch on him, coming into last year, he had 111 receptions for 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns. And I was like, okay. Antonio Brown, obviously the whole drama was there, Le'Veon Bell the previous year. And, now they're kind of removed from that. But coming back from there, it was like, can Juju Smith-Schuster be a number 1 receiver, right? And I think I got a lot of 50-50. I had some people say yes, some people say no. I was more on the no side just because I thought Antonio Brown, he's so versatile, and I think he took the top off the defenses in such a way that Juju could also, right? And you saw that with Martavis Bryant too. So I think Juju Smith-Schuster filled that similar type of role. I think he was a bit more talented than Martavis Bryant, so we saw better numbers. But last year, right, 552 yards, 3 touchdowns, and I just didn't see glimpses of him being a number 1. I saw it a little bit against the Pats and a little bit against the Ravens. Those were the 2
and
games.
The Dolphins. I'd
Yep,
say the Dolphins.
Dolphins he had.
And the 49ers. He had that long touchdown
that big catch
from Mason. Yeah.
But I think for me, when I look at a number 1 receiver, Griffin, I think it's, can on like a 3rd and 4 or 2nd and 6, can I guaranteed get a first down either by a deep play, a slant to the house, or a back shoulder throw in the end zone, something like that. And I haven't solidified Juju Smith-Schuster as a number 1 receiver yet. And I know Steeler fans will say otherwise, but I think for me, I need to see a year where and I think this is the year to do it because you get Big Ben back. Obviously, the O-line is still great, right? You have Matt Feeler, who had a 76 PFF grade, which is really impressive. I believe he allowed more than 4 sacks, but the PFF grade speaks for itself. He was very poised, only 4 penalties, I think. And then Pouncey, obviously, a great center, 0 sacks allowed. Villanueva, a great tackle. DeCastro, I think is a top 3 guard, right behind.
Stole him from the 2012 draft for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. And obviously back to Pouncey, just a consistent Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro. So, we look at this offensive line. We look at just the Steelers' offense in general, at least for me, I'm trying to move my Browns bias out the way, but
I understand.
This team has the most questions offensively. But maybe if you want to give me an insight on what do you think the Steelers' offense could be next year with Big Ben back?
Yeah, totally. So I do right now personally. Juju is not a number 1 receiver. In my opinion, he like James Conner. He was injured last year. He missed multiple games, and just the inconsistency of the 2 quarterbacks. From Rudolph to Duck, then from Rudolph back to Duck, and just the lack of talent we had on the receiver end last year. Dante Moncrief, we brought him in. Steeler fans thought he was going to be huge, and he barely. I think he only caught like 1 or 2 passes. Vance McDonald, we lost Jesse James, and Jesse James was a big part of that offense, and Vance missed some games too as well, and then we ended up cutting Xavier Grimble. And Deontay Johnson was a rookie, and I'm trying to think of our receivers here.
James Washington was another one.
Yes, James Washington, and Jalen Samuels was another big part of that offense because he can play it all. He did a lot of wildcat stuff, and Deion Kane came big when we signed him towards the end of the season.
So do you think Big Ben coming back, because for me at least, obviously the last time he played a full year, he led the league in passing, but he also led the league in picks. So My thing with Big Ben is this. He's never been a type of guy to, grit and grind on the offseason. I mean, we saw him, right? He was like chugging a beer, rocking the big beard. Like, I mean, that's just a typical Big Ben offseason. But,
Yeah.
the elbow injury, right, coming in at 38, that raises concerns for me. And I've always been, for Big Ben, it's just these last 10 years, he hasn't shown up in the playoffs. Obviously, the first half of his career, he was pretty terrific. Obviously, his rookie year, I think, is probably a top 3 rookie year of all time.
Best rookie year quarterback-wise, I'd say.
Most definitely. I mean, Dak is up there, maybe Baker with the rookie record, but I think Big Ben, I mean, going 13-0
Dak is up there.
is just insane. So, and obviously the 2 Super Bowls that he won, but my thing is, he won those 2 Super Bowls, but I think the Super Bowl MVP is a big title for a quarterback because that means you were the best player on the winning team. And unfortunately, it was Santonio Holmes against the Cardinals.
Should have been Ben.
You really think it should have been Ben?
I do think it should have been Ben, or James Harrison.
That's true. I agree. I think
best Super Bowl play in my
many people don't. I mean, I think it's just those type of things where it's like, I don't know who else can make that catch. And not to say Santonio Holmes is like the best receiver ever, but it was just such a perfect, like he stepped up when it mattered most. I think Ben made the throw, but throughout the game, it's just I didn't like what I was seeing from Ben. And then same thing against the Seattle Seahawks, Super Bowl 40. Hines Ward, I think, took over that game. But you want to give your quick thoughts on that?
Well, Ben has always been, if you look at like other receivers like Santonio Holmes and Antonio Brown and, Antoine Randall or just other simple players like Le'Veon Bell and Jesse James, when they leave Pittsburgh, they don't do well in other places. Santonio Holmes went to the Jets. He didn't do anything there. And then he went to the Bears. I think he played like a season or 2 there, and then he didn't do anything. Willie Parker, Ben was dumping off to him, he was handing off to him behind that O-line, and he didn't do anything in Washington. Same with Antoine Randall, same with Le'Veon Bell, and same with Antonio Brown. I mean, obviously his ego, but I think Brown would have performed because like he did with that one game with New England, he caught that touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
But just Ben makes the players. He makes the players who they are. And Ben definitely should have won Super Bowl MVP in Super Bowl 43. Santonio Holmes, I think, deserved it in some way, but I think Ben should have overall got it. Because he led the march. He hyped the guys up. He was there. He's there all season. He's the leader of that team. He's the only reason why we're playoff contenders.
I think that in that regard, yes, because the quarterback, their job is to win games. Their job is to be the leader. So I give that to Big Ben. It's just for me. I mean, obviously, I think he'll make the Hall of Fame.
Oh, 100%.
I don't even think that's a question. But it's just when I compare him to people in his era, right? I think Eli Manning is the closest thing, and Steelers fans are gonna get mad at me at this, but I know Big Ben has the Pro Bowls, he has more wins, but I think Eli was just, in the playoffs at least, I think there was a way bigger gap. I've seen Big Ben lose playoff games where I thought he should have won, like for example Jacksonville. I mean, that's a game that the Steelers can't lose, and I know that must have been heartbreaking to see.
That was.
I mean, he got outplayed by Blake Bortles, right? And that's a little bit discouraging. I mean, I know he threw for 460 and like 5, but I think if you get outscored by Blake Bortles, you got outplayed by him. And obviously there were countless times against New England. It's like, when are they going to step up? When are they going to step up? And it was just, Tom Brady had his number every time. But, for the Steelers team, I mean, Big Ben does come back. And the thing is for me is just the questions, right? Can Juju become a number 1? Can Deontay Johnson or James Washington break out, or will they stay, mediocre? James Conner, right? He had that 970-yard and 12 touchdown season 2 years ago. And then he just flat out basically disappointed. I know he was injury plagued, but 4 yards a carry, 464 yards last season. And the thing is, can he go back to that year? And I was actually just discussing this with a friend because we just had our fantasy draft, and I thought, James Conner would be an intriguing pick. But the thing with James Conner is, I think that year was also fed by his own players and his teammates saying, you know what, we don't need Le'Veon Bell. We got this guy here. And we've seen it, with D'Angelo Williams too, when Bell got suspended, right? Yeah. I remember that. He went crazy. I think it's just that Steelers O-line, man. They just make running backs look good. But I think when Conner had that year, everyone was like, you know what, who needs Le'Veon Bell? We got this guy right here. But despite that, they go 7-2-1, and And then Brown starts getting mad at the team. Le'Veon Bell obviously isn't there. Then you fall to 9-6-1 and barely miss the playoffs. So I think there was some tension there, but I think it's all gone. I think this is a new team. But, let's switch it over to the defense. I mean,
Oh,
there's
100%. Yeah.
there's just, I mean, like, I don't want to face it 2 times a year. It's just scary. I mean, the TJ Watt, man, like, I mean, our co-host Jack is just a huge fan of him, and I am as well. 14.5 sacks, 8 forced fumbles. I mean, that's unheard of. And then 2 picks. Definitely deserved first-team All-Pro honors last year. Can't forget about Minkah Fitzpatrick. I mean, quick question to you. Do you think he's a top 3 safety in the NFL?
He's up there. I'd give him probably another year, but definitely in the AFC, I'd go with that.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
And, I was just sitting here doing some homework, and I got the notification on my phone, and I was like, we traded for Minkah. Like, Pittsburgh just sports in general is known for not doing trades like that. Like the Pirates, their last big trade was the Chris Archer one, which didn't pan out. And the Steelers, their last big trade was, geez, I don't even remember really.
I can't even think of it. Yeah, like Steelers aren't really. I mean, they're known to build through the draft,
free agency, yeah.
Yeah, free agency kind of.
Pittsburgh teams just don't really make trades like that, and that was very shocking. And to be honest, I was upset at first because I was like, man, we could use that first round pick on a D, and then I looked into it and I was like, well, Minkah's better than the safeties in this year's draft, and so basically that was our first round pick, and then we ended up drafting Chase Claypool.
Yeah.
And but I do I think it's Terrell Edmonds. I think he's also one of the starting safeties.
He's very good. I was just about to say, I mean, 105 tackles last year. I think he's very underrated.
No, that's in the tackling. He's a good tackler, but he gets burned.
Yeah, that's the problem. I was gonna he's good in that, but the thing is, if you have Minkah, right? That's my point. You can disguise coverages in such a way where you can put Terrell Edmonds more in the box because that's where he plays.
Yes.
Like plays a lot taller.
He plays like a linebacker. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But having him there though, I think is very good. And you just look at the pass rush they have, man. Like Devin Bush, right? Bud Dupree. Obviously, his future is uncertain, but you still have him there. Devin Bush.
I don't think he'll resign with us.
I'm sorry.
We won't be able to afford him.
Yeah,
we definitely won't be able to afford him.
Yeah, we had a free agency episode, and we thought Bud Dupree's likely to leave, but as of right now, I mean, you still got him. I mean, you got Devin Bush, Bud Dupree, Stephon Tuitt, Cam Hayward. I mean, and then TJ Watt. I mean, that's 5, good to elite pass rushers there, and that's just scary to play against, really, to even think about. And then we talk, and one of my favorite players. He's actually the first player that I ever looked up. Joe Hayden. I mean,
Joe Hayden,
very good corner. 5 picks last year. I think he needs to play a little bit more poised because he allowed around 5 touchdowns last year. Play a little bit more poised, be a little bit more locked down like he was with Cleveland. But I mean, he's still great. I actually picked him for leading the league in picks next year potentially. So he's really good. I like him. Steven Nelson needs to be a little bit more consistent, but he's a consistent starter, and I think that's what you need. 8 passes defended.
And Steven Nelson didn't allow any touchdowns last year. Yep. I think he only had like 2 picks. I think. Like 2 picks?
I think 1. He had 1.
One? I know he had 1 against Buffalo.
Yeah, I think that's.
He had 1 or 2.
But I think you're pretty okay with him on the other side.
Oh yeah, and Joe is definitely still in his prime for sure.
Definitely better than what Artie Burns. Oh my god.
Oh, don't get me started. We totally overdraft. It's like 2nd, 3rd round picks, and we pick in the 1st round. It's like we're just like Seattle.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. I mean, his name was literally burned. Like that's what he would do. He would get burned. I mean, it was just
exactly
terrible to see. But
and now he's with Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, this team is definitely a top 3 defense. I think no doubt in my mind what they have going for them. But the problem is can their offense step up to and make plays in big games and be good enough to a point where I can say, okay, they are contenders in the AFC because. I've said this on every team-centric episode that we've basically done. I have tiers for the AFC. I have my tier 1, obviously, it's Kansas City and Baltimore. I think there's no doubt about that. I don't think Cleveland or Pittsburgh can catch up to them in the division. I just think
no way.
I mean, they have the easiest travel schedule. They have the easiest overall schedule. I mean, they're just asking for Baltimore to repeat. I mean, but I think, Kansas City, Baltimore, definitely a tier 1. I think my tier 2 is Tennessee and Buffalo. I really like those 2 teams. Maybe you want to agree with me or agree to disagree there. But my tier 3 is obviously seeds 5 to 7. I think they're around, 7 to 8 teams competing for it, right? There's New England, there's Cleveland, there's Pittsburgh, there's Denver, LA, right? Indianapolis, Houston. So I think those are the teams fighting from the 5 to 7 spot. And my thing is, the Steelers, could they, make the wild card, maybe upset some teams, or maybe get back in that tier 2 range, if their offense can step up? Where do you see this team going next year?
Like 100% not biased. I don't really see us doing much until we get rid of Randy Fichtner, offensive coordinator, because he was originally the quarterback coach, and then Todd Haley left, and we're like, instead of going out and signing somebody, we're like, Randy Fichtner. So and
not about that with Freddie Kitchens, man. I tried to get him. Oh man.
Because Fichtner just ran Wildcats. I think when we were playing the Bengals. I think Monday night. It was Monday night.
Was it with Jalen Samuels? I believe.
Yeah, it was Jalen Samuels. Yeah. And everybody was just like, "What are you doing?" Like, and I mean, I get. I think what was that like? That was week 4. So we're a game removed. We're 2 games removed from Ben getting hurt. So obviously the quarterback situation. They're not ready yet. But just running the Wildcat over and over, and just the unnecessary play calls on 3rd down, going for it when you shouldn't. Not going for it when you should, just terrible coaching on him, and just Tomlin needs to. I'm not a big fan of Mike Tomlin, honestly.
Interesting, really. Where would you put? Because I think, he won. I think he won this. No, he didn't win this. I think he joined 2013, right? I believe that's when he joined.
Mike Tomlin.
Or when did he join? 2008 or 2013? 2008, I think.
No, Tomlin was there. Like 07, I think.
07, okay. So he has the ring. Right? Against
with Cowher's team.
Yeah. But that was with Cowher's team. That is true. Yeah. I know a lot of Steeler fans pointed to that. Sorry, 2013 is the only year he didn't have a winning record. Excuse me, my bad.
No, he has had a winning record all of his years.
8-8. I thought they went in 2013.
Nope.
He hasn't had a losing record, right?
He has not had a losing season.
Yeah. I think that's so. But that's the thing. I think Tomlin is great for that. And I know the ring, people bring up that it was Cowher's team, but to keep this team consistently in the playoff hunt, right? I think it just shows that Pittsburgh has been one of the 4 best teams in the AFC since 2000. I think I give it to
yes,
Ravens, Steelers, and Broncos, or Colts maybe. I think Peyton Manning basically. I think he's the 4th.
Yeah,
but, you know what I mean. But I think Steelers were definitely one of the best teams of the 2000s for the AFC, and I think for them to keep it going, I think Tomlin's been a big part of that. But do you think Tomlin should get an extension? Do you think he should stay? How long do you
No, I think we should. I think it's time to move on. I know Kevin Colbert, our GM, is doing a year-to-year contract. He's doing a year-to-year basis, and I think it's time to clean the house. Get once Ben leaves, because I'm pretty sure this is Ben's last year on his contract, and if he. So once he goes, I say Tomlin goes and just clean out house, because Tomlin can't control a locker room. He can't. He doesn't punish players. You saw that with Antonio Brown in the Facebook Live, and he came out saying that it's been happening for years, and he hasn't, calmed him down. He hasn't took control of the situation. He lets it happen, and he let the Le'Veon Bell thing happen, and he's just a very iffy type of coach. Good record. Stat wise, he's great, but off the field, he drafts well. Locker room, yes. Locker room, just can't control the locker room, and that's a big piece for me, because if you can't control the locker room, you don't have control of the team.
I completely agree. I think intangibles for, the areas such as I think the 3 most important positions, at least for an offense, is coach, offensive line, and quarterback. And those 3 hinge on intangibles. And I see, with the Steelers' offensive line, one thing they do have is chemistry with each other. And we've seen that develop and stay consistently, right? Quarterback, Big Ben, I know what he's gone through. I know he's had some off-the-field stuff. But he's consistently made good chemistry with his receivers. And you mentioned all the guys, right? Randall L., Hines Ward, obviously, back in the day. To Antonio Brown.
Heath Miller.
Heath Miller was another one, right? He's shown consistency in that regard. And then Tomlin, I think one thing that you're right about is I think that's that was what was holding them back from getting to a Super Bowl in the 2010s, beyond Super Bowl 45, was I think that. And I think that's a great point that you make. But, what do you see from this AFC North? Because in my opinion, I think it's a top 3 division in football. I mean, it's just really tough. Obviously, you got Baltimore. You got us. I mean, I think we got something in the tank for next
You're
year.
getting better. You're getting better. You guys are getting better.
I think this is Baker's. This has got to be. I think it's a make or break year for Baker. But obviously, we got 2 tackles. Defense definitely improved. I think Denzel Ward's going to finally come back healthy, and he only allowed 1 touchdown off basically an injury-plagued year. Greedy, I think, is going to be better with Grant Delpit. Obviously, Mac Wilson, I think, will step up. And then, Odell's finally got healthy after his core muscle surgery because he played with a sports hernia. Jarvis, hip surgery, I think he'll be fine by week 2. The 2 new tackles I just mentioned. But, you want to give a record prediction for the Steelers, maybe even the Browns or the rest of the AFC North? Where do you see?
Yeah, so I see the Ravens go in, I want to say 13-3.
Yeah.
Because I think because anytime the Steelers or Ravens play, it's an instant classic. No matter if the score is 50-0 or Ravens win, or if it's 0, if it's a 0-0 tie, it's a classic no matter what. Mm-hmm. And so I think the Ravens definitely are going to win the division.
Yeah, I believe so too.
And the Steelers, I think their ceiling is 11-5 and their floor is 9-7.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
No, you're not gonna like that.
No, I know you're gonna crap all over the Steelers. And then the Browns are their ceiling is 9-7, pretty much, maybe 10-5, and if without many injuries, 10-5, mm-hmm. and their floor are gonna be 8-8. Yeah. And the Bengals, Joe Burrow's not gonna do anything.
Not a believer in him.
No. Yeah. At least not right now. I need to see
in the pros. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
And just the lack of preparation. No OTAs, no rookie mini camp. Training camp is shortened. There wasn't any coach on coach. Couldn't get together or coach on player couldn't get together with any of his teammates. So he's got a short time to learn a big playbook. And Bengal fans are expecting him to just take him up to the top. And first overall pick too. So it's just so much pressure on him, and with AJ Green not being able to stay healthy, and Tyler Boyd, and just Tyler Boyd is probably the only decent receiver there. And
I mean, I like John Ross. I think he needs to be.
Well, he's injury prone. He's injury prone.
Yep.
Yes.
Good point.
And T. Higgins, another rookie. Definitely think receivers definitely come into the game more. Like they get used to it more than the quarterback. So I think T. Higgins will definitely, be a bigger factor as the season goes on. Mm-hmm. And Joe Mixon, he's definitely gonna have to bail Burrow out a lot, and the offense just dump offs and just running hard.
I think you hit it on the nail. I mean, for me at least, I got the Ravens going 12-4. I just think for them, right, they were the hunters last year, and I think mm-hmm. the NFL has a lot of this concept where it's hunters versus hunted. So, like the Niners and the Ravens, they were hunting everybody down. They were the pretenders, right, who were fighting the teams, the really good teams, right? The Ravens beat the Seahawks, the Patriots, the Niners. I mean, they beat insane teams. They ramped the Texans like 41-7. I mean, they just did insane. The
Dolphins week 1, like
oh Jesus, yeah,
it was like 50 some. It was like 59-0 or 59-3 or something
like that. I mean, it was crazy. So that's one thing for them. So they were beating teams that they shouldn't have beat, or they were the underdogs. But now, right, I think they got exposed on primetime in the playoffs. And I mean, mm-hmm. Lamar's 0-2 now. Obviously, he's young. He's got time to develop. I still have him as like my 3rd best quarterback. But I think now when they have 5 primetime games, I think everyone's going to go after them, and I think they're going to lose some games that they shouldn't. But I think 12-4 is still, I got to give them that because of the schedule. So the Steelers, for me at least, I think it's tough because they do have a ceiling of 10-6. I think that is like they can easily hit that because, again, their defense is stellar. And I think it's really – I think for the Browns and the Steelers, one of them is going to hit 10-6. I think the other is going to hit 8-8. So
yeah, I can see that happening.
So I think the Steelers, for me, it's just the questions on offense, right? And no doubt they have the potential to – I mean, we didn't even mention Eric Ebron, who's coming from Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah.
Very underrated sign because Big Ben loves his tight ends. We've seen it with Heath, Vance, Jesse James. So I think –
even Ladarius Green.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I just remember that too. I mean, Ebron had 750 and 13 in his best year. Just a touchdown machine, and you know how Big Ben likes to throw to his tight ends in the end zone.
He likes his big guys, Chase Claypool.
Exactly. So I think Ebron can definitely be an X factor for them offensively, but for me right now, it's just there's too many questions. right? Again, I mentioned James Conner, Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, James Washington. What am I going to get from him? Also, Eric Ebron, is he going to be that Heath Miller for Ben Roethlisberger? And can Big Ben come back at 38 years old and, take this team back to being AFC contenders? I think right now it's just too early to tell. I can easily put them in that tier 3, tier 2, but I just don't see them hitting that tier 1, obviously, with the Chiefs and the Ravens.
Yeah, you need proof first.
8-8.
Definitely.
But I think their ceiling is easily 10-6. I wouldn't be surprised. Same thing with the Browns. I think, floor 8-8, 10-6 is my ceiling. Obviously, I'm going to lean towards the ceiling.
Yeah.
But I mean, same thing with the Bengals. I just think they're too young. They're not ready yet. They need another year, and you brought up a great point with the OTAs. I think that's very important. And I think that's why teams like the Browns are going to struggle early because, for example, Odell needs to get back back after that sports hernia. Same thing with Jarvis. Is going to take a little bit of time.
You get back in football shape.
Exactly.
Condition.
So, and I think that's very underrated aspect of football. I think there's so many, like travel miles. Like, for example, Seattle has a lot this year. I think
Steelers have the least travel miles.
Yep. So, and that's another thing that works in their favor. Baltimore also has a very favorable travel schedule. So I think that helps them go 12-4. But, I think to sum this all up, the Steelers are a great team. They always have been, as much as it pains me to say it. I mean, hopefully we can sweep them. Probably won't happen. But as long as we get the Week 17 win, I'll be very happy, but probably not.
Yeah, we always play you guys in Week 17, don't we?
I think we play you guys at Cleveland Week 17, and then I think middle of the year it's at Pittsburgh. But I think we lose the Pittsburgh one. I think we win at home, but we'll see how it goes.
I can see that happening.
Thank you so much, Griffin, for hopping on this episode. Really,
yeah, of course.
And don't make sure we'll have his writing links down below in the description. We'll have our Spotify down there, Apple Podcasts, Instagram. Please check those out. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.